wanna be a positive renegade, making changes for the better, throwing out old rules and creating a new landscape that can be shared. Be kind, be honest, be courageous. I wanna be a leader, don't be afraid. A voice whispers inside. You have the power to change the wrong. Envision the past, build the future. Plant positive in your garden and watch it grow. I wanna be a positive renegade, making changes for the better, throwing out old rules and creating a new landscape that can be watching movies, we forget chick and the gang, funny, strange, hysterical, or just plain bang bad. This weekend just got amazing. It's a watch along weekend. Horror and sci-fi, comedy and more. We got it all this weekend. This weekend just got amazing. It's a watch along weekend. Horror and sci-fi, comedy and more. We got it all this weekend.
Howdy, gang. Hey, the poet, and welcome to yet another watch along weekend. This time it is for Misery, and I will, oops, about to lose stuff off my desk here. I will be watching the Blu ray from Scream Factory from a few years ago. I unfortunately was not able to find a for free version to put a link. Hey, Blair, long time no see, buddy. Um, and so hopefully, those of you that want to watch along with me tonight, it's not a requirement. If you just want to hang out in the chat or just hang out in general and listen to me talk about the film, that is fine as well. But if you want to watch along with the movie as I'm talking about it, then hopefully you have your own copy or a way to watch it. Now, I have not, as I've said most of the week, I have not been feeling well this past week. So, again, if I don't seem to be on my A game, that is why. But I didn't want to put off this watch along for Misery because this is one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations. And it's also directed by Mr. Rob Reiner, who not only is this going to be a watch along weekend, but I wanted it to be kind of a hats off to you, Mr. Reiner. I don't think I need to go into the details of what happened to Mr. Reiner and his wife, because it's very disturbing and troubling, and I'm sure everybody has heard on the news or whatever, wherever you get your news at. You've heard of the tragic circumstances surrounding the death of Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle. So I want to say hats off to him. He was one of my favorite directors ever. He also did Stand By Me, which was based on Stephen King's story, The Body. And that is another fantastic film. I think Rob Reiner was able to do what very few directors can do with a writer's material of Stephen King's caliber. And that was, he was able to get to the heart of it. And he created a really good adaptation of both The Body with Stand By Me and with Misery. Yeah, the poet, that is interesting. You say, you notice that King movies don't have remakes except The Running Man. And speaking of that, I did watch the remake of it, and it was okay. And some people might think the original Running Man's a little dated, and maybe this is more up to date for them. But, I still tend to want to go back to the original one. That's not to say that I won't ever watch the remake again, because I did sit down and watch it with Steve not very long ago. But we're going to get to Misery here in just a little bit. For those of you that will be watching along, I am at the Metro or Metro Goldwyn Mayer or MGM logo. 11 seconds in on this Blu-ray, the line is getting ready to roar on here. So for those of you that are going to be watching along, if you want to get your respective copies queued up while I'm doing a little housekeeping stuff, that would be great. And then once I get this housekeeping stuff out of the way, we can go ahead and get started with this movie. And so I have several things up on the site, or I keep wanting to say site, actually the channel. So we have a Don't Open Till Christmas watch along, Evil Dead Chick Slasher Fest for New Year's Evil, My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade Chapter 3, Forgiveness is Key, Celluloid Trash, talking about the video Dead and Attack of the Beast creatures, the debut of Horror Mania, talking about horror movies from 1896 to 1899, Insomnia Cure for the years 1982 to 1983. That has gotten a lot of views on it. Thank you, guys and gals, for viewing that. They're all messed up, talking about Mary, Mary, Bloody Mary, and Strip Nude for Your Killer. Evil Dead Chicks Top 10 Don't Horror Films. Another My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade Chapter 4, Don't Play the Blame Game. Celluloid Trash for Beyond the Seventh Door and Black Devil Doll from Hell. The second Horror Mania episode covering horror films from 1900 to 1905. Insomnia Cure for the years 1984 to 1985. They're All Messed Up for The Psychic Killer and Psycho from Texas. As well as an Evil Dead Chicks Top 10 Religious Horror Films. And I see that I spelled horror wrong. I knew something looked weird about that. I've also got some pre-recorded videos up on the site. There's a Movie Munchies for Billy's Black Christmas Cookies. Final thoughts on Stranger Things since that series has recently ended. Pick Your Poison taste test for Stranger Things Gatorade Upside Down Citrus Cooler. Me and Steve's first We Watch Movies for the new year, episode 8. And a Midnight Confessions for Final Exam. Plus, I'm hoping to get a new We Watch Movies that me and Steve just did not very long ago. I've also got a My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade, Chapter 5, Don't Spread Gossip as Gospel, coming up tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Celluloid Trash on Monday, talking about blood beat in the brain. There will be another Horror Mania covering films from 1906, horror films from 1906 to 1910. Um, Insomnia Cure for the years 1986 to 1987 on Wednesday. Thursday will be another They're All Messed Up, talking about the swinging barmaids and Alice, Sweet Alice. And another My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade for on another Sunday, the 25th of January. Haters gonna hate, but do they need to? All right, so I think that brings us up to date on everything that's going on with me. Hey, kids, thank you for popping in, and any help with the algorithms is fantastic. And thank you also for wanting to watch the replay. Um, I read the story for Stand by Me as well, the poet. Great story. I mean, it pulls a lot of stuff from Stephen King's childhood. Yes, Blair, I agree. Reiner had so many great movies. I think Stand by Me is my favorite. That's definitely at the top of my list. I absolutely love Stand by Me. But I also love Misery. And I love When Harry Met Sally. And I just recently, for the first time ever, watched This Is Spinal Tap. I know I am very delayed on that, but I did very much enjoy This Is Spinal Tap. And I want to thank people that recommended it to me over the years. So, without further ado, I guess we're going to go ahead. Well, I'll give y'all a little more time for those of you that will be watching along. So again, I'm 11 seconds in on the Scream Factory Blu-ray from a few years back, and the line is getting ready to roar on the MGM logo at the beginning. So I'll give everybody about another minute or so if you're going to be watching the movie to get queued up and turn it up to 11. That's right, the poet. And also keep a sharp eye on your drummer because they might explode or otherwise disappear. Um, so we're going to give it a few more seconds here and then we'll go ahead and get started, folks. And if anybody comes in later, of course, and needs a timestamp, I will be glad to provide that for you. And as always, if any adults, I can't have underage people in here because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube should something be said or something. And, I don't want a minor being intentionally exposed to that. But if you're an adult and I at least know something about you and know you're not going to get on here and start taking your clothes off or something, then I will be glad to have you on here uh, as a co-host for this particular watch along. All right, so let's go ahead. Yes, James Caan is in this, the poet. You are correct. So we're going to go ahead and do the countdown and get this party started. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Press play, and we are off and running, folks. And James Caan, God rest his soul, I loved him in this role. And I love Kathy Bates as Annie Wilkes as well. I think that was just perfect casting, just absolutely perfect casting. And I heard, because Kathy Bates was in another, well, she was also in The Stand for a short time, and she was in Dolores Claiborne. She played Dolores Claiborne in the film. I had heard that Stephen King actually had a picture of Kathy Bates by his um, typewriter, or probably word processor or computer or whatever he was using to type the novel Dolores Claiborne, because he always envisioned Kathy Bates in that role. So that was probably tailor made for her. The poet, that is a good question. I just, Kathy Bates is so ingrained in my mind as Annie Wilkes. I just can't imagine anybody else playing her. Ooh, and I love that Mustang too. Sorry. Just had to say that. I'm a huge fan of Mustangs, especially the classic ones. And I do like the song Shotgun by Junior Walker and the All Stars as well. I love the way the title and the credits at the beginning come up, that really bright red over top of the white snow. It's just fantastic. Richard Farnsworth, God rest his soul as well. Lauren Bacall. There's a lot of great people in this film. We're supposed to get some snow here, but I don't think that much snow. I remember the first time I read the novel Misery, I just thought this is fantastic. I think Misery was actually one of the first Stephen King books I ever read, and then I was hooked, and I had to go back and read them all. I'm still a huge fan of Stephen King. Some heavy snow there too. And I think probably all writers go through this in their career where they feel like they've kind of copped out a little bit, where they're not writing their best work. And we're seeing Paul Sheldon here talking to his agent, um, and saying, I haven't been a writer since I got into the misery business. I think that Paul considers the misery novels fluff. and not really representative of the caliber of work that he could be doing. She does say, I'm your number one fan. And that is why I would never, ever tell a writer or any other celebrity that I met um, that I was their number one fan after seeing this and reading the book. Hey, Hope. Hope, what's my favorite Stephen King movie minus The Shining, even though he hates it? Um, I like so many of them. Oh, goodness. I mean, Stand By Me's got to be right up there, but I like so many of them. But I would probably have to say the long form stuff is probably my favorite. For instance, The Stand. I just thought the original The Stand, not that thing from a few years back. I just wasn't fond of that one from a few years back, but the original The Stand, I thought that was it was epic. It was fantastic. But Shawshank Redemption, yeah, it's hard to beat Shawshank Redemption. The Green Mile, I mean, gosh, I mean, the man, Stephen King is so prolific and he writes, and I've said this before, he writes characters that when I read his novels, I can almost imagine and sitting across from these people that he's talking about. I mean, they are real people to me while I'm reading the novel or while I'm watching a movie adapted from one of his novels. Yeah, Shawshank Redemption, that one's fantastic too. And like I said, The Green Mile is fantastic as well. So, Hope, since you're in here, have you had any snow up in Indiana or any that has stuck, I guess, accumulated? Doctor Sleep was good. The official um, sequel to The Shining. Gang, I think Stephen King has softened a little bit on his thoughts on Kubrick's version of The Shining because there were things in the book Doctor Sleep that tied in with Kubrick's version of The Shining instead of Stephen King's version of The Shining with his book with the original source material. And the movie did as well. The poet, you say, yes, the Green Mile is, remember reading that book and then watching the movie. Now, the poet, let me ask you this. Did you read the serial novels when they came out? And you had to wait for them, or did you wait until they put it in one book? I'm just curious. I hope you say we had a little bit, not too bad. They said the roads were frozen. Gotcha. Steve didn't talk like the roads were too bad here. He got out this morning and um, went to the gym this morning. And here's my tale of woe now, because Hope knows I was getting a new washer and dryer, and I was really excited. You get to be a housewife and or mother, and you get excited over new appliances for your house. I never thought I would be excited over appliances, or excited over washing clothes. But I was eager to try out my new washer and dryer because I've had the same washer and dryer since Steve and I were married. So, and we've been married 12 years now. So, but when they got here this morning, they told Steve that the water hose, what that brings the water into the washer, was too corroded, and I guess they didn't want to be responsible if like something happened to the pipe or something like that. But Steve encouraged them to leave the stuff. They were going to take it back with them and come back after he had a plumber take a look at it. And I think they thought we were going to have our pipes all redone. Because this is a really old house. I think our house is about 70 years old now. And so Steve thought, well, screw that. So he had them bring it in. They went on and hooked up the dryer. So the dryer is hooked up. It was the washer that they were concerned about. So Steve was able to get one of the hoses off, but he could not get the other one off. And I said, well, and he was kind of worried too. I said, Steve, you better quit monkeying with it or we're going to break the pipe. And then we're going to have a bigger mess than we've got. So, so the plumber is coming on Monday to get that connector off, so that hopefully Steve can get this washer. Maybe they'll go ahead and do it for us. I don't know if they will or not, or if they'll charge extra. They estimated him $100 to get that connector and the rest of that hose off. Hope you say King realized that was a bad idea. Glad he stuck with the Kubrick version. Hope you also say the house we are at, we think it's old. It has gas, which not crazy about, scares me. Yeah, I don't like gas either. We have gas and electric in our house. And the gas costs an arm and a leg. So to get back to the movie a little bit, we're seeing that Annie Wilkes, Paul Sheldon's #1 fan, is a nurse or an ex-nurse, and she, is taking care of him. Had she not rescued him from the car, he probably would have froze to death or died from his injuries or both. And she appears quite normal here. But we're going to soon figure out, as Paul is within the movie, that there's something not right with Annie Wilkes. Oh, wow. Oh, that's a hard question. Who would you get to play Stephen King in a biopic? If I know Henry Thomas is older now, but I could imagine him playing maybe a middle-aged Stephen King, because Henry Thomas is older now. But I just feel like Henry Thomas has some features like Stephen King, and people might disagree with me on that. Johnny Depp, that's interesting. Johnny Depp was actually in Secret Window, if any of y'all saw that movie based on a Stephen King story. And Secret Window, by the way, that's a good one too. I could definitely see Johnny Depp playing Stephen King. So Buster, the sheriff, is trying to figure out what may have happened to Paul Sheldon because he is missing. And he's kind of retracing Paul's steps from the time he left the Silver Creek Lodge to see if, he may have run into trouble somewhere. Jim Carrey, that's interesting, Hope. I'm liking all these names that y'all are throwing out. Again, I'm not on my A game. I haven't been on my A game this week, and so my brain is just like mush. And I have some other things going on with me, and people, I'm not going to bore you guys and gals in here with it, but people real close to me know what's going on with me. Okay, so in the scene before, the scene with Buster and Libby at the Silver Creek Lodge, Annie tells Paul that, I saw a manuscript for a new Paul Sheldon book and she wanted to read it. But now she seems upset. And this is where we're going to see the facade start to crack with Annie. So she tells him it's brilliantly written, his new novel. And she doesn't like the swearing. And she says it has no nobility. He tells her these are slum kids. I was a slum kid. Everybody talks like that. To which she goes off at this point. This is where you start to see the facade crack. Hovey said, then Kathy Bates get an Oscar or was nominated for this role? I couldn't remember. Yeah, I can't recall if she got an Oscar or not, Hope. But I definitely think she was nominated. And then she tries to backtrack, because she spilled soup on Paul. And then she says, look what you made me do. And she's clearly, this is not the Annie that he met at first. I agree, DePoe. You say, I think she did and should have won. I also wanted to remind everybody that I've got, a couple of polls up on the site, on the channel. I keep saying site, on the channel for some upcoming watch alongs. And y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Frances Sternhagen, who plays Buster's wife and his deputy, I always thought this was so funny because Frances Sternhagen, she's not no spring chicken there. And she was rubbing his knee there. But isn't she still alive? Because she was, a couple of years ago or so, I think. So Buster has noticed a broken tree branch, so he's going to make his way or try to make his way down this embankment. I think this is so funny. She says, "Need some help?" He says, "No, I'm enjoying myself." And he was just inches or feet from where Paul Sheldon's overturned Mustang was. Hope you say, I keep hearing that we're going to get a Shining series because of how good the Welcome to Derry is or was. Uh, yeah, it seems like I heard that too, Hope. And I'd be interested in seeing that because, you know, just wondering what they could do with it. Oh man, I honestly I hope they don't redo Misery because Rob Reiner done it right this time and had the right people in it and all that. Mm, I just, you know, I know that it does nothing to tarnish the original. I know that in here, I know that, and in here, I know that. But I keep going back to when I went to see the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, which I hated. Um, if any of y'all liked it, it's fine. But when I was standing in line, um, I think to get my popcorn and stuff, there was a young couple ahead of me, and the guy had seen the original and knew there was an original Nightmare on Elm Street, but the girl he was with didn't. And he said, there's an original movie. No, no, And she, of course, was going on about how good that was. And I was just like this. But that's what saddens me is a lot of younger generation people don't know about the original. They don't know there's an original. They think that the one that they're singing, the remake they're singing, is the first. Oh my gosh. Oh, you say Rob Zombie's Misery with Sherry Moon Zombie is the Kathy Bates part. She could probably pull off crazy because she did in House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, all that. So the crazy side of Annie is going to come out here again. Um, and you can see the wheels are turning in poor Paul's head there because he knows that he killed the Misery character off, and in that book that Annie has in her hands, that's the last Misery novel. And he has to be dreading what's going to happen when she finishes that novel. And here comes the big Misery. That is a cute pig, though. If I ever got a pet pig now, I would name it Misery. I used to have a pet pig when I was living with my parents, and he was named Winston. I loved that pig. Dad always used to kid me that he was going to make bacon and stuff out of Winston, but he would never have done that. Yeah, I love my pet pig Winston. He was bigger than that pig. He was actually named after John Lennon because John Lennon's middle name was Winston. And so Annie's expressing to Paul that, misery, the misery novels were what got her through after her husband left her. And she spent a lot of nights working at the hospital and she would read. I always thought this was funny here where um, Annie has got Paul's urine and she's just shaking it as she's talking. Yeah, oh, yeah. He said I would have been like, "Can you please stop shaking that?" That looked like what Paul wanted to say to her. So Paul knows he's in deep shit now because she's calling him a dirty bird and she's found out that Misery is dead. So she's completely went off the rails now. So the facade is not just cracked now, it's gone. Um, Annie has, yeah, the trains went off the rails here. And she says, and don't even think about anybody coming for you, doctors, your agent, your family, because I never called them. And nobody knows you're here. And you better hope nothing happens to me because if I die, you die. That's intense, folks. I hope you say I always thought about becoming famous, but the way people are nowadays and how creepy they can get. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think I would want to be famous, even on a lower level of famous. Because the more, even, and I'm not popular on YouTube by any stretch of the imagination, but even becoming popular on something like YouTube, on social media, um, can, I don't want to say dangerous, but people can get creepy, even over, people that are well known on YouTube and other social media platforms. Yeah, this movie is definitely a big example of that. Yes, exactly, Hope. You say, I mean, look what happened to John Lennon. Yeah. And just because somebody that was mentally sick and was not taken care of properly, um, misinterpreted things that John Lennon said, misinterpreted his songs, and all kinds of things, um, which unfortunately led to the death of one of the greatest musicians, um, that I've ever, and songwriters that I've ever listened to. So now Annie seems a little more lucid, but we're going to find out that she's going to want Paul to do something that, for anybody that's a creator, whether it's a writer, a painter, a musician, um, or even somebody that's doing like graphic design, like I like to do, um, she's going to ask him to destroy something that he's created. And it really, really, this scene always hurts me watching it. I hope you say it's crazy that was in the 80s. Look how bad it can be now. And hope you say you love graphic design. Graphic design is fantastic. In fact, I wish that I had put all my eggs in a basket with graphic design a long time ago, so that I could have maybe gotten more training and stuff like that, and maybe had a career in that now. So Paul is trying to kind of pull the wool over Annie's eyes and say, there's a whole bunch of these copies out. If you want me to burn my book, I'll burn my book. But she's not falling for any of it. Hope you say same. I wish I would have went to school for it. So she knows so much about Paul that um, she knows that he never makes copies of his books, because when he was 24, he didn't make a copy of it because he didn't think anybody would want to read it. Nobody would want to buy it. No publisher would want to buy it. And when they did, he was superstitious, and so from then on out, he did not make copies of his book. And as crazy as Annie Wilkes is, I almost think, and I don't want to offend anybody because I'm not talking about regular religious people. I'm talking about people that go off the deep end and become dangerous. And you can see she's putting lighter fluid all over the bed where Paul is laying. And she's, wanting him to burn this book because of the cursing and stuff in it. And she says, help me help you. But what she's saying is, if you don't hurry up and light the match and burn this book up, I'm going to burn you up. And she's telling him he's doing the right thing. And that is what religious extremists do. They go off the deep end over little things. And basically, they feel like they are judge, jury, and executioner. Oh, you say, yes, they do. I hope you say your great aunts, all three of them. And, I'm not talking about somebody that goes to church on Sunday or even maybe goes to church on Wednesday or whatever, or if they're Catholic, they go to Mass or whatever. I'm not saying anything about that. But somebody that thinks that they are exempt from, they can do whatever they want. But these other people over here, you can't do anything. Now, for those of you that have read the book, as bad as some of the stuff that happens to Paul Sheldon in the movie, for instance, the hobbling scene, which we haven't gotten to yet, but I thought some scenes in the book were worse, including making him drink mop water and stuff like that. I hope you say David is Baptist, and I'm slowly wanting to get back into it, but people make it hard. Yeah, they do. And that is why I have, not to get into a religious discussion, but that is why I just don't consider myself Baptist or Methodist or Catholic or anything. I just say I'm a Christian. And even that can have bad connotations now because of things that people do in the name of Christianity. Um, so I'm kind of hesitant to even say that. But I grew up Baptist. So we're seeing now that Paul is trying to get a plan in place to get rid of Annie, basically. So he's the novel she's giving him for pain. Apparently, he must not be in as much pain now. He has made a hole in his mattress and he's hiding the pills there. Yes, Hope, it does. It really hurts the good ones. So, gang, I'm going to step away and take a bathroom break. So, I'm going to just take myself out of the stream for a couple of minutes and I'll be right back. Y'all just continue watching the movie if you're watching along, and I'll be back. All right, gang, I am back. So we're about to see another explosion from Annie because she's wanting him to write a new Misery novel and bring Misery back. So she set him up a little studio here in the bedroom, and he's telling her, I need some long grain Mimeo to type on because the kind that you got, Caressable Bond, it smudges. And so he's showing her, and she's like, well, mine costs months. I don't see how it can smudge, but he shows her. Hey, Cece. So she's getting visibly irritated. She's like, "Is the paper all you want? Do you want a handmade pair of riding slippers?" And then he's like, "What's wrong, Annie?" And she's like, "I go out of my way for you. I feed you, I clean you, I dress you, I do all this, and then you complain about the paper that I got." And she slams the paper but she did get down on his legs, which are still painful. And, you know, also, she probably hit his nether regions there too. But he notices that a bobby pin, I guess, has fallen out of Annie's hair there. And he's going to fashion a key out of this to get out, or to be able to pick the lock to his room and get out while Annie is gone. One of my little girls was in here. She maybe came in here and went out. My little bitty girl, Darcy. My mom had a. I thought she may still have a lamp like that one. Only I think hers is blue. So he thinks he's found a phone. He's, going to try to call for help, but it's soon going to become apparent that there's something very peculiar about this phone. It has nothing on the inside. To which Paul says, "You crazy bitch." Really, Hope? You say there won't be a season 2 of Welcome to Derry until 2027 or 2028. That that seems like it's par for the course with a lot of these series now. Like, I know there was a writer strike in the middle of the later seasons of Stranger Things, and COVID and different things delayed stuff. But like I said, it just seems like that's normal behavior now for series. So this little penguin is going to get Paul in trouble, and we're going to see why a little later, or how a little later. So he sees Annie's got a little shrine to him with all the misery books. There's being a fan and there's being a fanatic. And Annie falls under the latter, unfortunately. And there's, just being a regular garden variety fan of somebody, and there's obsession. And that's another problem that Annie has, is obsession. We see how well she likes Liberace. Can you imagine if um, she had been able to get Liberace in her house like that? What she would have done to him? That's right. Hope Mystery 2 with Liberace. Somebody should make that, even if it was just a short film. Yeah, I would love to see what you could do, Hope, with Sora. That would be fantastic. Have Liberace tied to the bed, and she wants him to create a piece of music just for her. She'll bring a piano in there, just like she set up a writing office for Paul. Uh-oh. Annie's coming back now, and Paul is out of his room. He's out of the wheelchair. I remember the first time I watched this, and when I was, reading the stuff too, these scenes are very, very tense. Now she's back to being calm, Annie. Paul, I've got your paper, just kind you asked for, being nicey nice. And she comes in there, finds Paul sweating, and she says, "Your color is very hectic. What have you been doing?" The timestamp I have is 55 minutes and 23 seconds. So we're almost an hour into the film. And this is an hour and 47-minute film, folks. Well, It maybe could, because does anybody remember the Castle Rock series? And it had one whole season on Annie Wilkes. So, had what happens to Annie Wilkes, the character of Annie Wilkes at the end of this, had that not happened, they could probably, they could do what maybe Castle Rock didn't. They could go into areas that Castle Rock didn't go into with Annie Wilkes's history. Um, I think that would be really interesting, actually. The Castle Rock series, unfortunately, I don't think it lasted very long. I don't think it's still going on. And this just like makes my stomach turn over. But that's because Kathy Bates is so great in this. Blowing kisses at Paul, and so now Buster and the helicopter pilot have found Paul's car because the snow has melted enough, and so a cop is saying, the presumption now is that Paul Sheldon is dead. They think he had crawled out of the car and froze to death. I hope you say you want to watch a great Kathy Bates movie, watch Bad Santa 2. I've seen the first Bad Santa, but I haven't seen Bad Santa 2. Hey, Gory Tiger. And so Virginia is telling Buster, you don't think he's dead, do you? And Buster, with his sharp eye, says, well, he may very well be, but not the way they say. Because he said, you see these marks on the car door. Someone pulled him out of this car. So we see now that Paul has made a little pouch with some of the notebook paper. And he's going to be putting the pill, the ingredients in the pill in this little pouch. Um, I'll have to ask Steve and see if he wants to go because, I like to use my, I have a AMC membership and I get, free movies. So we just end up paying for one ticket and, I get to skip the line when I get my popcorn, stuff like that. Steve thinks it's silly to have it, but I said, it comes in handy when we both want to go see a movie and we only have to pay for one ticket. I'd like to do a Highway to Hell for it. Excuse me. So now Annie comes back in. This is all wrong. I'm sorry, Paul. You'll have to do it all over again because it's not worthy of you. So she tells him what he's written is not fair. And then she starts talking about the chapter plays. And he calls them cliffhangers. And she said, I know that, Mr. Man. She's starting to get upset. I hope you say you heard they're planning on doing 3 more Scream sequels. Well, I wouldn't doubt it. They'll probably continue to make them as long as they're making money. They didn't get out. He didn't get out of the cockadoodie car. Yeah, I enjoyed Castle Rock a lot. So now Annie is happy again. And so she's spinning around in circles, and you like see the very pinnacle of her mania here. So she's gonna go put on her Liberace records. And then she says, you do like Liberace, don't you? Well, he damn well better like Liberace, or she'll probably go psycho on him again. So now he hits her with the question, would you have dinner with me tonight? Virginia says, I don't know where he is. He's probably out having an affair. He never tells me anything. Um, I love the spunky older husband and wife, um, and sheriff and deputy, or whatever you want to say. Because you don't see this a lot with older characters. Usually, they're older characters that we've come to expect them to act a certain way, and as Buster calls it, spice. Virginia adds some spice to their marriage. He says, you see, it's just that kind of sarcasm that's giving our marriage real spice. So, for those of you that are interested, they're talking about Annie's meatloaf. I did make a version of Annie Wilkes meatloaf for a movie Munchies. So if you want to go digging into the movie Munchies episodes on the channel, you can check that out. So Paul's one to have a toast to misery. But remember when Paul was putting all of the contents of those pills in a little packet? So Paul's got to get her out of here so he can put that little packet of poison into her drink. So he's saying, do you have any candles? Hope you say you've never been a fan of meatloaf. I can't do ketchup. I'm trying to remember how much ketchup, if any, there was in this particular meatloaf. I did find a recipe where somebody had made Annie Wilkes meatloaf, and she used tomatoes, but I don't know if she used ketchup. I would probably have to go back and watch my movie Munchies on that. And she used spam. She mixes in spam with it. I'm a huge fan of ketchup. I put ketchup on just about everything. It grosses people out a lot of times. So Paul thinks he's going to succeed in poisoning her, and oh no. And just a look on Paul's face here when she spills the wine says it all. Well, that plan went down the drain really quickly. We're getting down to the last quarter of the film, folks. I always like to let everybody know that it's not entirely necessary that I do that, but I always like to let you know. What's my favorite Stephen King book? Well, that it changes in different years, but I probably have to go back to The Stand, and I mean the uncut Stand. Now, when The Stand first came out back in the 70s, Stephen King was still a new writer, so the publisher made him cut a bunch of stuff because they didn't think it would sell. Years later, after Stephen King became the famous, prolific writer that he is, they put it back out in an uncut form, and that's when I read it. So I'd probably have to say that that's my favorite, but I love all of his books. I think the only book I ever had a problem with, and I want to say it was around the time of the car accident where the vehicle hit him as he was walking. I think From a Buick 8 was one of the books that he wrote after that accident. And, you know, everybody can have a less than stellar book every once in a while. So I definitely don't hold that against Stephen King. He's a fantastic, amazingly fantastic writer. Um, and but From a Buick 8 was probably my least favorite of his books. The Poet, you say it's a tie between Different Seasons and The Green Mile. I think those are good picks too. So now we're seeing Annie go into a very depressed stage. And she's saying that she loves all of Paul Sheldon, not just the writer part of Paul Sheldon. And she says, I know you don't love me. Don't say you do. You're a beautiful, brilliant, famous man of the world. And I'm not a movie star type. Now, everybody, has felt that way, whether you're male or female. But we are fortunately, the majority of us do not take it to an obsessive level. Unfortunately, Annie does take it to an obsessive level. Yes, Stephen King did have a cocaine addiction, so much so that he doesn't even remember writing Cujo, which I love the book Cujo, and I love the movie too. And the important thing, though, is, as you said, hope y'all both conquered that addiction. Stephen King had a little trouble with the alcohol, too, which he succeeded in conquering as well. So we're seeing that Annie has a gun. And she said, sometimes I think about using it. She says, I better go now. I might put bullets in it, which is very ominous based on all the stuff that has gone on before in this movie. So Paul is kicking things into overdrive. So Annie is left. We don't know where. We don't know when she'll be back. So Paul has got out of his room again. He is getting a knife. And Buster is reading one of the Misery novels. And Misery got hauled into court, accused of something she didn't do. And she said, there's a justice higher than that of man, and I will be judged by him. That quote is going to come back later. Hobie said, my aunt and my grandma have all the Stephen King books, have the big bulky ones that would knock somebody out with. Yeah, exactly. I have a hardback version of The Stand that would probably knock somebody out. So I didn't talk about her Memory Lane book, but she's got some spooky shit in this Memory Lane book. And we're going to see that when she said that it says local investment banker dies, Carl Wilkes plunges to his death. I believe that is supposed to be Annie's husband, and she said he left her. I think that she killed him. And so a top nursing student fell to their death, and then all of a sudden Annie graduates from nursing school with honors. Um, and she was named the head maternity nurse after a pediatrician, well-known pediatrician, died. Yes, Hope. I did. Me and Steve actually went to the movies and saw The Long Walk. Uh, well, no, it's actually, to me, it wasn't boring. It was very shocking. I don't know if you've ever read The Long Walk story, but yeah, it's a very hard watch. Um, is what I will say about it. It's not boring, but it's very, very hard to watch. Very hard. But like I always say, to each their own. If David did ever watch it and find it boring, then that would be his right to have that opinion. You're going to check it out, Hope. Just be prepared, Hope, because like I said, it's a very hard watch many, many times during the movie. You'll make him watch it. So we're now to the final 29 minutes of the movie, and things are going to very soon kick into extremely high gear, because this is about the point in films where things come to a head. If they're going to come to a head, they usually come to a head during this particular part. So, unfortunately, Paul's going to let his guard down, and he's went to sleep. Where you've seen in a scene or two before, he had his knife ready to stab Annie when she comes in there. But she just went and watched Love Connection and he fell asleep. Which we're getting ready to come up on the hobbling scene. And for those of you that have seen Misery, you know what I'm talking about. This is a scene that my dad almost had to turn away on. And she says, I know you've been out. And we see that she's got him tied to the bed. And she says, you've been out of your room? And he says, no, I haven't. And she talks about the ceramic penguin in her study always faces due south. And he says, I don't know what you're talking about. and he's feeling for the knife, but Annie's already found it. And she found this key too. And she starts talking about the Kimberley diamond mines and the native workers who stole the diamonds, how they were punished. And she's like, don't worry, they didn't kill them. But if they caught them, they had to make sure they could go on working, but they couldn't run away. And that operation was called hobbling. This is a very tense scene, folks. Like I said, this is a scene that nearly had my dad turning his face away. Even though he knew it was fake, the special effects and all that, this looks real, folks. And she didn't just break one of them. Oh, damn. That's bad. She goes and does the other one. In the book, she actually cuts one of his feet off, um, which, I've thought about it. I don't think about it every day or, anything like that. But I've thought about it when I watched the movie. What would be worse, having your foot cut off or having them both broken like that? I mean, you still have your feet, but they would probably be damaged. Folks, I'm going to have to step away for a second here and grab me something with some sugar in it, but I'll be right back. All right, gang, I am back again. So, remember when I said the quote was going to come back up? So, Buster saw that when Annie Wilkes um, was initially implicated in a murder, she quoted Misery. And that quote again was, "There is a justice higher than that of man, and I will be judged by him." So Buster is at Annie Wilkes' house now. Annie is getting Paul out of the way by drugging him and taking him down to the cellar or basement or whatever you want to call it. Which is better, the book or the movie? Um, Now, are you talking about Misery or are you talking about The Long Walk, Hope? Because as much as I love movies, 99.9% of the time, I prefer the book to a movie. Um, the only time that has been the opposite for me was with Forrest Gump. And it may be because I watched the Forrest Gump movie before reading the novel by Winston Groom. And Tom Hanks did such a fantastic job of portraying Forrest Gump in the movie that whenever I read the book, I was like, this isn't Tom Hanks. This is, it was Forrest Gump was talking about playing with himself and stuff like that, talking about being a mongoloid, and I think he cursed and stuff like that. It just wasn't like the Forrest Gump from the movie. Oh wow! Imagine if this movie was in 3D. Misery. Well, I still have to go back to my original statement that 99.9% of the time, I love movies. I love cinema in general, especially my horror movies. But cinema in general, I absolutely love, love, love movies. But I 99.9% of the time, the book is my preferred medium. Um, no matter how good the movie is. And like I said, the only time it was ever the reverse was with Forrest Gump. Yeah, and I did a watch along for Forrest Gump a long time ago. It's been a few years ago when I did it, and I'd love to do one again. An updated one, I guess would be the way to say it. I've done one for a lot of these movies that I'm doing now. Um, but sometimes I think if you wait a little while and you do another watch along, you're not going to say the same things exactly that you said on the other one. So I don't think it hurts. So I would be all for that. Maybe I'll have a Tom Hanks night and we'll have Forrest Gump as one of the picks for the voting. So surely we're going to see the demise of a character that I hated to see go. And I hated to see him go in the book, and I hated to see him go in the movie. So, oh, Buster, you got to go back in the house. I guess he thinks Annie might have failed or something. And even though I'd read the book, this is still shocking here. Because she blows a hole right through him. How you say, I wish you would have got that sequel of Forrest Gump. Ah, yeah. Was that the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company, or wasn't that what it was supposed to be called? So Annie's talking about, they gotta both die, and she's put 2 bullets in her gun. This is all very ominous. And all the while she's talking about how beautiful it'll be, and you're like, you're sick, lady. Paul is concocting, a last ditch effort, basically. She's coming with the needle and the gun, and he says, I love you too, which stops her. And he says, I know we're meant to be together, and I know we must die, but it must be so that misery can live. And he knows that's going to get to her. We have the power to give misery eternal life. And so, therefore, he's got to finish the book. So he's getting the lighter fluid. And so she just, the way her personality changes from complete deadpan, serious, and murderous to, I'll fix you something to eat. That is just so frightening. And now she's back to, oh, Paul, I got to know what happens. And he's saying, I started the last chapter. So he's telling her, I'll need 3 things. So he needs a cigarette, and he quit, but he smokes one after he finishes a book, and a match to light it, and a glass of champagne, Dom Perignon. Only she calls it Dom Perignon, I think. Oh gosh, that's a scary thought. I hope that David's ex-wife was like Annie Wilkes. So remember when Annie had Paul burn his new novel? Well, what goes around comes around, folks. Oh my gosh, Hope. Well, I'm glad he was able to get away from her. So, you know, he's got the lighter fluid. She's bringing him a match for his cigarette. So he sends her away again to get 2 glasses for the champagne. Throws the book on the floor, or the manuscript, I guess I should say. Gets out the lighter fluid. Well, he's really going to wind her up now. And he says, you know, why? I learned it from you. When she says, Paul, you can't. She's trying to put the manuscript out, the fire out, and he hits her. Amazingly, this doesn't kill her, hitting her with that big, heavy, old fashioned typewriter. It's I don't know. I would almost say that Dolores Claiborne is, but this one runs a close second. Hope. Had there never been a Dolores Claiborne movie, this probably would have been for me. This is a battle for the ages, folks. All that dead weight falling on him. So now it's 18 months later, like a year and a half later. And we see that Paul, he's walking, but he's walking with a cane. and Paul's having a dinner lunch with, or a dinner date, or whatever you want to call it, with his agent. And she's telling him how he's got a shot at some prizes. That people are right, the critics are raving about it. And then he doesn't look happy. And she said, I thought you'd be thrilled. Well, he said, I wrote this for me. I think every writer probably goes through this. More than likely, every writer goes through this. That there's that one or two books that they wrote for them. And we see that he's singing a lady that's pushing the dessert cart in the restaurant, and he's singing Annie Wilkes. And his agent's asking about a nonfiction book about that whole experience. And then we see that no, it's not Annie Wilkes, but she says something hauntingly familiar. I just want to tell you I'm your number one fan. And folks, this movie and the book are why I would never tell anybody famous that I respected that I'm your number one fan ever, 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 ever. Definitely, if I ever got to go up and talk to Stephen King, would I say, I'm your number one fan. So we have officially reached the end of Misery. I will stay with everybody that's still around till the credits roll. I probably won't stay on too long after that unless people got some questions or comments or something like that, because I'm not feeling too well right now. I was able to get through the movie, but towards the end there, I started not feeling so hot. So, but if y'all do have questions or comments, I will stick around while you ask or comment on things.
This is a reminder to go in the back room and turn off the heater. If you finish this, just let me know you're done. Otherwise, I'll remind you in the morning.
Or if people got questions, now, or comments that they'd like to make about the movie, I'd love to hear those.
To go in the back room and turn off the heater. If you
Sorry,
finish
that's
this,
my
just let me know
reminder.
you're done. Otherwise, I'll remind you in the morning.
But hopefully, you guys and gals will be able to join me for tomorrow night's My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade. Don't Spread Gossip as Gospel. That'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow night. Thank you, Hope. I appreciate that. You said great stream as always. I try to at least make them entertaining and give you a little bit of background on the movie and stuff like that. Yes, thank you, Hope. Hope says like and subscribe. Definitely. If you haven't subscribed to my channel and you're enjoying the content I'm putting out, please subscribe. That's a way that you can help me in the channel grow and expand and all that good stuff, and it won't cost you a dime. And liking the videos and streams that I do also definitely helps. You can't grow in a vacuum, folks. I will say that. All right, gang, we have officially reached the end of Misery. This watch along that, I kind of wanted to. I'd done one a while back, but I wanted to do another one. And hopefully, those of you that were able to watch tonight learned some things, enjoyed the watch along. And for those of you that watch it on the replay, I hope the same for you. And I appreciate you. But I appreciate Hope and Gory Tiger and the Poet and Kits, CC. Just want to make sure that I don't miss anybody. And Blair, I thank you guys and gals for hanging out with me tonight at different points and times and keeping me company in the chat. For those of you that didn't feel comfortable getting in the chat, or you were using a device, you say it was a B+ film. Well, I think that's a good score. For those of you, like I said, that maybe didn't feel comfortable getting in the chat, or you were watching this live stream on a device where you were unable to chat, like watching it on your TV, I thank you as well. And for those of you that will watch it on the replay, I thank you guys and gals as well. And I guess that's it for me. As always, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a fantastic rest of your Saturday night, folks. And I'll see everybody next time. It's still better than Madman Hope. Madman's entertaining, but yeah, this is a much better film. See everybody next time.